All right, guys, the Act 1, second part. Still within the same conversation. We got Jack, Gwendolyn. So Jack just proposed to Gwendolyn. Let's read a little bit of the lines before we continue. Gwendolyn glibly, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them. Jack, personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, I don't much care about the name of Ernest. I don't think the name suits me at all. Wait, I remember that little silliness that she likes. She knew ever since his name was Ernest that that was the one she wanted to marry. Gwendolyn, it suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations. Well, really, Gwendolyn, I must say that I think there are lots of other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name. Gwendolyn. Jack? No, there is very little music in the name Jack. If any at all, indeed, it does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notoriously domesticity to John. Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Ernest. Jack. Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There was no time to be lost. Gwendolyn. Married, Mr. Worthing? Jack, astounded. Well, surely you know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you were not absolutely indifferent to me. Gwendolyn, I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on. Jack, well, may I propose to you now? Gwendolyn, I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you. Jack, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me? Jack, you know what I have got to say to you. Gwendolyn, yes, but you don't say it. Jack, Gwendolyn, will you marry me? Goes on his knees. Gwendolyn, of course I will, darling. You have been about it? How long you have been about it? I'm afraid you have had very little experience in how to propose. Jack, my own one, I have never loved anyone in the world but you. Gwendolyn, yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present. Enter Lady Bracknell, which I think is her mother. Lady Bracknell. Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous. Gwendolyn, Mama! He tries to rise. She restrains him. So Gwendolyn continues, Mama, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet. Lady Bracknell, finished what, may I ask? Gwendolyn, I'm engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mama. They rise together. Lady Bracknell, pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, as the case may be. It is hardly a matter that she should be allowed to arrange it for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage. Gwendolyn reproachfully, Mama! Lady Bracknell, in the carriage, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn goes to the door. She and Jack blow kisses to each other behind Lady Bracknell's back. Lady Bracknell looks vaguely about as if she could not understand what the noise was. Finally turns around. Gwendolyn, the carriage. I say, Gwendolyn, go. Gwendolyn, yes, Mama. Goes out looking back at Jack. Lady Bracknell, sitting down. You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing. Looks in her pocket for notebook and pencil. Jack, thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing. Lady Bracknell, pencil and notebook in hand. I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I am quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke? Jack, well, yes, I must admit I smoke. Lady Bracknell, I am glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London, as it is. How old are you? 29. Lady Bracknell, a very good age to be married at. I've always been of opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know? Jack, after some hesitation. I know nothing, Lady Bracknell. Lady Bracknell, I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. Grosvenor Square. What is your income? Jack, between 7 and 8,000 a year. Lady Bracknell makes a note in her book. In land or investments? Jack now, or Jack. In investments, chiefly. Lady Bracknell, that is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one's after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land. Talking about either like, does he own land or is he investing in something? So what did she say again? That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land. Jack, I have a country house with some land, of course, attached to it, about 1,500 acres, I believe, but I don't depend on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only people who can make anything out of it. Lady Bracknell. A country house, how many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country. Jack, well, I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I like at 6 months' notice. Lady Bracknell, Lady Bloxham, I don't know her. Jack, oh, she goes about very little. She was a lady considerably advanced in years. She is a lady considerably advanced in years. Lady Bracknell. Ah, nowadays that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square? Jack, 149. Lady Bracknell shaking her head. The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered. Jack, do you mean the fashion or the side? Lady Bracknell sternly. Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics? Jack, well, I'm afraid I really have none. I am a liberal unionist. Lady Bracknell, oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or come in the evening at any rate. Now to minor matters, are your parents living? Jack, I have lost both my parents. Lady Bracknell, to lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy? Jack, I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found. Lady Bracknell, found? Jack, the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing, because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort. Lady Bracknell, where did the charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for this seaside resort find you? Jack, gravely, in a handbag. Lady Bracknell, in a handbag? Jack, very seriously. Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag, a somewhat large black leather handbag, with handles to it, or an ordinary handbag, in fact. Lady Bracknell, in what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag? Jack, in the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own. Lady Bracknell, the cloakroom at Victoria Station? Jack, yes, the Brighton line. Lady Bracknell, the line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that remains one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. has probably indeed been used for that purpose before now, but it could hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society. So, Jack, may I ask you then what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness. Lady Bracknell, I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over. And Jack, well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell. Lady Bracknell, me, sir, what has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing. Lady Bracknell sweeps out in majestic indignation. So she leaves. Jack, good morning. Like pretty much goodbye. Algernon from the other room strikes up the wedding march. Jack looks perfectly furious and goes to the door. For goodness sake, don't play that ghastly tune, Algy. How idiotic you are. The music stops and Algernon enters cheerily. Jack is pissed. So you want... Oh, no, fuck it. Algernon. Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you. I know it is a way she has. She is always refusing people. I think it is most ill-natured of her. Jack, oh, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. Never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what a gorgon is like, but I am quite sure that Lady Bracknell is one. In any case, she is a monster, without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algy. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own aunt in that way before you. Algernon, my dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It is the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest knowledge of how to live, nor the smallest instinct about when to die. Jack, oh, that is nonsense. Algernon, it isn't. Jack, well, I won't argue about the matter. You always want to argue about things. Algernon, that is exactly what things were originally made for. Jack, upon my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. A pause. You don't think there was any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you, Algy? Algernon, all women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his. All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his. That's I don't know. Whatever. Jack, is that clever? Algernon, it is perfectly phrased and quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be. Jack, I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. The thing has become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left. Algernon, we have. Jack, I should extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about? Algernon, the fools? Oh, about the clever people, of course. Jack, what fools? Algernon, by the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about you being Earnest in town and Jack in the country? Jack, in a very patronizing manner. My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman. Algernon, the only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain. The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain. Jack, oh, that is nonsense. Algernon, what about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest? What about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest? Jack responds to Algernon, oh, before the end of the week I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they? Algernon, yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. It's the sort of thing that runs in the families. You had much better say a severe chill. Jack, you are sure a severe chill isn't hereditary, or anything of that kind? Algernon, of course it isn't. Jack, very well then, my poor brother Ernest is carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill that gets rid of him. Algernon, but I thought you said that Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your poor brother Ernest. Won't she feel his loss a good deal? Jack, oh, that is all right. Cicely is not a silly, romantic girl. I am glad to say she has got a capital appetite, goes long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons. Algernon, I would rather like to see Cicely. Jack, I will take very good care you never do. She's excessively pretty, and she's only just 18. Algernon, have you told Gwendolyn yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18? Jack, oh, one doesn't blurt these things out to people. Cicely and Gwendolyn are perfectly certain to be extremely great friends. I'll bet you anything you like that half an hour after they have met. I'll bet you anything you like that half hour. I bet you anything you like that half an hour after they have met, they will be calling each other sister. Algernon, women only do that when they have called each other a lot of other things first. Now, my dear boy, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go and dress. Do you know it is nearly 7? Jack irritably. Oh, it's always, oh, it always is nearly 7. Algernon, well, I'm hungry. Jack, I never knew you when you weren't. Algernon, what shall we do after dinner? Go to a theater? Jack, oh no, I loathe listening. Algernon, well, let us go to the club. Jack, oh no, I hate talking. Algernon, well, we might trot round to the Empire at 10. Oh no, I can't bear looking at things. It is so silly, Jack said. Algernon, well, what shall we do? Jack, nothing. Algernon, it is awfully hard to work doing nothing. Or it is awfully hard to work doing nothing. However, I don't mind hard work where there is no definite object of any kind. Enter Lane. Remember, Lane's the servant. Lane, Miss Fairfax. Enter Gwendolyn. Lane goes out. Algernon, Gwendolyn, upon my word. Gwendolyn, Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing. Algernon, really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all. Gwendolyn, Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You are not quite old enough to do that. Algernon retires to the fireplace. Jack, my own darling. Gwendolyn, Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mama's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I ever had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing that she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you. Jack, dear Gwendolyn, Gwendolyn, the story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mama with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country? Jack, the Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire. Algernon, who has been carefully listening, smiles to himself and writes the address on his shirt cuff, then picks up the railway guide. Gwendolyn, there was a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily. Jack, my own one. Like, you are mine. My own one. Gwendolyn, how long do you remain in town? Jack, till Monday. Gwendolyn, good. Algy, you may turn round now. Algernon, thanks, I've turned round already. Gwendolyn, you may also ring the bell. Jack, you will let me see you to your carriage, my own darling. Gwendolyn, certainly. Jack to Lane, who now enters. I will see Miss Fairfax out. Lane, yes, sir. Jack and Gwendolyn go off. Lane presents several letters on a salver to Algernon. It is to be surmised that they are bills, as Algernon, after looking at the envelopes, tears them up. Algernon, a glass of sherry, Lane. Lane, yes, sir. Algernon, tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunburying. Lane, yes, sir. Algernon, I shall probably not be back till Monday. You can put up my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits. Lane, yes, sir. Handing sherry. Algernon, I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane. Lane, it never is, sir. Algernon, Lane, you're a perfect pessimist. Lane, I do my best to give satisfaction, sir. Enter Jack. Lane goes off. Jack, there's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for in my life. Algernon is laughing immoderately. What on earth are you so amused at? Algernon, oh, I'm a little anxious about poor Bunbury, that is all. Jack, if you don't take care of your friend Bunbury, he will get you into a serious scrape one day. That's what Jack tells Algernon. Algernon, I love scrapes. They are the only things that are never serious. Jack, oh, that's nonsense, Algy. You never talk anything but nonsense. Algernon, nobody ever does. Jack looks indignantly at him and leaves the room. Algernon lights a cigarette and reads his shirt cuff and smiles. Act drop. So, Gwendolyn, Jack, they want to get married. Jack has sort of a mysterious past. And now Algernon, got the address to this so-called house in the country, and he's gonna go Bunburying. And Mrs. what's her name? Or Lady Bracknell. Lady Bracknell. Little Jack and Gwendolyn. Lady Bracknell. We got Lane, the servant. Then we have Algernon, friend and nephew. They're together, or they want to be married, but his past is a little peculiar. Don't really know where he comes from. And yeah, Gwendolyn seems to love him anyway. Seems to be some orphan guy, but according to him, he's successful. He owns a couple houses, one in the country, one in the town. He got some investments. To me, it's a self-made man. So I don't know. Seems like a good dude to me.